Hello, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Crendor. Welcome back to Fishing with Crendor. Episode 55, 4, 5, one of those. Where today we'll be fishing with Sinvicta.
Hello, I'm glad to be here, Coach. It only took 2 years after we first originally plans that you gave me, and I'm glad we made it here, and I'm happy to be on the illustrious fishing podcast with Coach Crendor. Coach,
Thank you. Now, I did actually fish with Dan before you.
oh, that's how could you do that?
But I have not fished with Sam yet. Sam Strippin. So you have beat him out.
I'm pretty sure I've known you longer than any of the people that you fished with, except maybe Jesse and Dodger. I don't know if you fished with her or not.
I did.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I'm
Who's
not
known
sure.
you? Who's known you longer than me, other than
Um,
Jesse and Dodger?
I mean, TB knew me longer,
Right.
and man, who else?
Yeah. Not a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
It's
think.
been it's been at least 8 years now, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while. So
Yeah.
luckily, I was able to get you on episode 50 something.
Yeah.
And man, so if nobody knows who you are, why don't you tell them who you are?
Well, my name is Sinvicta. I am a YouTuber and streamer that has known Crendor for a very long time. Before I started calling him Coach,
Mm-hmm.
I knew him as Crendog, I think, or
Oh
no,
yeah,
Crendoge.
yeah,
Crendoge is what I
that's
used
it.
to call you. Yeah. Thank God I moved on to Coach because
Yeah.
that's stupid.
Yeah.
But no, I do YouTube streaming, the standard typical stuff. But I'm also in a heavy metal band. I like music. I like heavy metal. I like all kinds of music. But right now my shtick is the Binding of Isaac mostly, and then streaming whatever sounds good, whatever seems fun on Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we can talk a bit about all that actually. So
yeah.
let's start out first with video games. So what was like your first ever video game console?
First ever console was the original 8-bit Nintendo, the NES, the classic.
Classic.
And I played it back when the Super Mario Brothers bundle came with like Duck Hunt, and it also had it was the Power Pad. You remember that? The
Uh
Where you had to put it on the ground and
oh
sprint on it
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, that came with my NES. That's the first time that I ever actually played a home console.
Oh wow.
And man, look at me now.
Did you play like PC stuff before that, or was that like your first actual gaming thing?
I played on the Commodore 128, and that was the only games I remember from way back. I mean, I was like, I don't even remember how old I was, but like we played like Afterburner and like Skate or Die and stuff, but none of it was like memorable, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember it was cool because I was like, oh my gosh, I can like, look, I'm flying a plane, and then it looked a little bit better than the NES, and then I was like, oh well, this has like a really stiff joystick. I want to have like a controller. So then I made the switch, and I don't know. I've always enjoyed any kind of video game, really.
What's like your most memorable game from the NES, SNES, like all those games back in the
Uh, from the NES, I think. Well, my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy One,
Hmm.
which I think you've played before on stream actually,
Did I?
and I think you played on emulator one time. I think
Oh,
I might be
uh,
thinking of Jesse.
you probably are, because I've
But
never really played Final Fantasy games.
okay, well, the original Final Fantasy is my favorite game ever. But I have two titles that stick out for me in particular because people hate them and I kind of love them. Uh, the first was the original Jaws, the one made by LJN, the one that's just horrible to most people. But I loved it because as a kid growing up in Bermuda, anything tropical and like fishing oriented, even and like especially sharks, because like sharks are my favorite thing ever.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the opposite
I
of
was
Jesse.
like, Yeah. I was super duper into, and so when Jaws came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I love sharks. I got to get this. And then the other game that I really loved, but I also hated, was the original Ninja Turtles, because I could not get past the Technodrome. I just could not do it.
Oh, is that the Oh wait, no. Like, was it just called Ninja Turtles, or was it the Turtles in Time one?
No, no, no. I'm talking about the one for the original NES, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the one where you had like the overworld map, and then like
Oh yeah, yeah,
you would
yeah,
go
yeah.
underneath, and the turtles, like when you jumped in the air, like they did like 400 somersaults in the air before they landed.
Yeah.
Angry Video Game Nerd covered it a couple of times now, but yeah, then Super Nintendo. I mean, where do you start? There's so many good games that I remember. Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which is how I knew them over in the U.S. But Secret of Mana, I think, is probably my most memorable, because that's the game that I actually played multiple times through just to experience it again. And like the soundtrack for that game was absolutely incredible. And then and then I also played the heck out of a wrestling game also made by LJN. I think it was just called Royal. No, it was called Survivor Series. I think WWF Survivor Series, and they only had 8 wrestlers, and you could never have more than 2 wrestlers in the ring, even though you could have like tag team partners out there. I used to play the heck out of that because I was a huge wrestling fan, and yeah, and then you got the standard Mario Kart and Link to the Past and all that kind of good stuff. But like the more obscure titles, I was a big fan of.
So you actually play a lot of like JRPGs.
Yeah, yeah, I've always been a super nerd for RPGs, because like it was at a slow pace when I was a kid to understand, like, okay, I have time to make decisions and stuff, and like work out strategies. And I always thought the idea of like, wow, I killed this thing and it dropped something that I can sell for a profit. Man, I got to get me some of that. And I just kept doing it and doing it.
I was the dumb kid. I like got Super Mario RPG and I couldn't figure out how to play it. I was like, I just want to move. I rented it from Blockbuster and then I returned it and I was like, I don't understand.
Did you ever rent a console from Blockbuster or from any of the video stores ever?
I never rented a console,
Really?
but I remember they had the thing where you could rent a console. Why did you rent one?
Oh, dude, yeah, I rented the PlayStation like all the time. Like I would save up money, uh, and I would like me and my good friends. We would like kind of pool our money together, and then one of us would go and get with their parents. They would go rent a PlayStation. We would play Ridge Racer, Destruction Derby, and Twisted Metal. We would just play that nonstop, and we figured out by the third or fourth time that we did it, we could have just bought a PlayStation, but that was so much money. Like, when you're a kid, you're like, man, $100 is like, there's like
Yeah.
it's inconceivable,
Yeah.
So the fact that we were like saving up $30 or whatever it was back in those days to rent one was like a miracle. I mean, it wasn't something that we were doing every week, but it was like every probably like once or twice a month, I would say, that we would rent a PlayStation and just veg out and just play Ridge Racer all the time. We were like blown away with the graphics, man. It's like the road looks so realistic, man. And then you look back at it now, it's like, wow, that looks like absolute garbage.
How long did you get to play it for when you rented it? It's like a week.
A weekend, so you get it for 3 days.
Huh. That
So
doesn't
like
even seem like that long.
yeah, we would rent it on Fridays after like either band practice or football practice or something, and then one of us, whoever rented it, had to return it on like Sunday before we went to bed, because obviously we wouldn't be able to play it during the week
Yeah.
because of school and stuff. So that was the good times, man. Like so we had a system where one of us would, whoever was renting didn't have to buy anything else. They're the ones paying the majority of the cost, and then our other buddies, there was a group of, it was myself and 3 other friends. We all lived in the same neighborhood, and we had the system where whoever was getting the console, that was it, and then the other people were getting like the pizza and like soda and like chips and whatever else. I mean, heroin, of course.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta get tons of H
Yeah.
for that.
That's what makes the games fun, obviously.
Yeah, that's why the graphics look so good.
Yeah, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the like Warcraft games then? Like on like Warcraft 1 and 2?
No,
3?
I didn't. that was completely new to me. I didn't even play an RTS until the original Command and Conquer, and that wasn't until whenever that game came out.
Oh yeah, that was when was that? Command
It's
and
like 95 or 6, maybe a little bit
95.
later.
Yeah, 95.
5, yeah. Yeah, that was the first ever multiplayer. That was the first online game I had ever seen in my life. And I never got into a lobby where I actually played somebody because it would always disconnect because we were on like a 28 baud modem or whatever back in
Oh
those
yeah.
days. But like I was just amazed that like I could connect and then like talk to people on the internet. I was like, this is the great. I don't even need to play the game. I can just chit chat with people.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, there's another kid somewhere else in the world. Of course, it wasn't probably in America, but
Yeah.
it's like, wow, there's some other kid in the country that like is sitting down at the same time that I am. Like that's amazing to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, when I was talking to Dan, he talked about that too. He's just like, yo, you just like go online, you're like finding like people all over the world, bro. That's my Dan Giesling.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's go.
let's go.
But yeah, it was crazy. Did you play like any online RPGs then? Like, because I know the big two people played were, what did
EverQuest,
Ultima Online,
Ultima Online,
and Dark Age of Camelot.
Yeah, I wanted to play Ultima from the people that I knew who played it, but like I never owned a computer that was good enough, nor did I ever have an internet connection that was good enough. But on top of that, like with sports and everything, like I didn't have time to really, like weekends were like football. Like I always had to do football, and if football season was out, then I was playing soccer for the most part. Also known as football. But no, I never. My first ever MMO was Star Wars, was SWG.
Oh yeah, Star Wars Galaxies.
I loved it. I'm so jealous of Boogar because Boogar keeps playing on he plays on the SWG Emu server.
Oh yeah,
the emulated server, and he's given me like info about it before, and every time he does, I just immediately forget it because I'm talking to Boogar. And
classic.
You know, yeah, I mean, it's typical Boogar, but yeah. So SWG was my first MMO, and I fell in love with it, and then I went from that to Final Fantasy 11, which I played like nonstop. I mean, I was pretty hip deep into SWG because I was one of the first American Jedis on the server. My server was Kari, and it was that for some odd reason that was designated as the official French server of SWG. I don't know why, but I had gotten force sensitivity, or I think it was just called force sensitive, randomly by the game. Back then, like no one could be a Jedi if you wanted to. It was just pure luck. Luck of the draw, and my account was given the quest, and then I followed it, and then I was able to become a Jedi or whatever. And so I spent a lot of time, but even with all that time I spent in Star Wars Galaxies, probably is only half of what I spent in Final Fantasy 11. And that was the first like time I was like, man, my life is starting to like revolve around like an MMO. Yeah. For probably for worse.
I think I played Final Fantasy 11 for a tiny bit because my friend's brother played it, and so we were all gonna play it. But like, I was so confused, and I was like, "Wait, so we're just grinding?" And like, I didn't understand.
You would hate that game. You would absolutely hate that game.
I think it was it when WoW came out, or like right after WoW?
It was right before WoW came out. I remember playing WoW after already being like hip deep in 11. But I beta tested in WoW in 2003, I want to say. Golly, that was how long? That was 17 years ago.
Yep.
Good Lord, man.
That's crazy.
We're like ancient now.
I know, right? It's because whenever people talk to, especially like when I talk to like the Zoomers, and they're just like, man, I loved like being a child in Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm like, wait, what?
What? I remember that came out.
I know. I was like going to college. It's like, oh god.
It's so weird because like when I talk to like my godson, who he's almost 10 now. just having a conversation with him, like, dude, you've never known a world that didn't have the internet. That's crazy to me.
It is great.
Like,
In fact,
I remember the world beforehand.
our generation's kind of like the last non-internet generation when you think about it.
Yeah, millennials were phased out. I mean, we got to see the technological advance of the online revolution and the emergence of the internet. I mean, the internet's been around since like the 60s or 70s or whatever, but commercialized in late 90s, and that was when we were all basically either in high school or just getting to high school, and so we couldn't really we weren't really able to immerse ourselves because the technology was so young back then. But now it's like everything is integrated. I mean, like, whoever thought a cell phone would be connected to us and just make us smarter,
Yeah. No,
I
it
mean,
is crazy. Like, even then, like back then, you had to have a computer to get online, and you had to have like a good computer to run games and stuff. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
you can use your uncle's like laptop or some shit, or you could, and it would like get 10 FPS.
If that. I remember trying to run Doom 2 on my old we had an old compact computer, and I was like, oh man, this is great. Remembering going back to the day, because I used to install a bunch of WAD mods. So like I would replace it with like Barney or The Simpsons or whatever, like all the sprites and whatever. And I remember thinking when I erased a bunch of stuff, I was like, wow, we've got like 100 megabytes worth of free space. So like I could never dream of ever even filling that much hard drive space. And I was like, this is it. This is as fast as computers can get. It's not going to get any better, man. And now it's like I think a mobile app alone is like 4 gigs.
Oh yeah,
for like a standard game now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. I remember I had my old E machine. That was like one of the first computers I had. Was the classic E machine from Best Buy or whatever.
Yeah, I remember those. Like $600. Be on the internet. Connect worldwide. It was do online shopping.
Overheat if you try to do things like edit. I remember I had to, when I made my first video like 11 years ago, and I had to render it. I didn't know how rendering was like insanely like intensive on the computer. And it kept shutting down, and I was like, oh, it's overheating. So I had to take the side panel off and just blow a fan at it. and then I had, not even that, I had to render it in 3 parts. So I rendered like part 1, part 2, part 3, and then I combined it all and rendered it as one.
And then re-render it.
Yeah, so it was like double compressed and terrible. Great times.
I look back at my old WoW videos and I'm like, man, how did I even achieve a resolution like that? It's so bad. Like I can't even read the text that's on the screen half the time.
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
I remember it was the first time I made a WoW PvP video was on an old computer that I ended up giving to my dad, and like I think I was recording at 720p, but I also downsized it to like 480 or something like that. So like all the effects and stuff that I would put in whenever I was learning Vegas would look pretty decent, but then the actual gameplay was like, ugh. Like I mean, you can kind of tell what's going on, And I think back of that now, and I'm just like, I would not be able to look at myself in the mirror if I posted a video of WoW footage where you couldn't even read the text on the screen. Yeah. Like it's funny how much your perspective shifts the longer you do things and like the more you learn and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. What about like what did you do when you first started playing WoW? Like what did you make, or were you like playing with friends, or was it just alone?
I was playing with a buddy of mine, Seppercrod. He was the one who actually said he and I played Star Wars together. That's how we met. And he was like, "Hey, you should try out this new game called World of Warcraft. I'm beta testing." And I'm like, "What's a beta test?" And I ended up he got me into the beta, and I made a rogue. And to show you how long ago it was that I played WoW, I played WoW back when rogues started with shields, with bucklers. So that's and for those of you who don't play WoW, what that mean? I mean, rogues don't. You can't even equip a shield if you wanted to on a rogue. Yeah. That was phased out by the time WoW released. So I'm talking early beta, and it was fun. It was revolutionary because I was like, man, the graphics are incredible. I mean, remember this back in 2003, 2004. But the thing that I remember the most was that it just played so smooth and everybody was super friendly. Like everyone was just happy to be playing it together. Yeah. It was a nostalgic time. It was different times back then.
Yeah. No, it was crazy because like the graphic style, it's like I think it's a good graphical choice because even years later, it's like it doesn't look bad. Like it looks outdated, but it doesn't look bad. It's just got that cartoony feel to it.
But if you look at like retrospectively, if you look like today, go back and look at classic WoW, it's like you understand what's going on. Like it still represents. You don't have to use your imagination. Like you can see a night elf do a flip. You can see like when enemies cast a spell, or there's decent lighting effects or whatever. It's not like looking back today, but then looking at like say Dark Age of Camelot or EverQuest, where it's like, ugh, man,
yeah,
like this doesn't even look like a video game anymore, type thing, And that's no offense to anyone who's still playing out there. I'm just saying, comparatively speaking, like WoW always stuck out because like the way that it stands out the most, I think, is just because of like all the colors that they used, and they made good use of really low res images that loaded fast. So like all the animations and the frame rates were always really, really good. And I think that is probably the reason why it stands out the most, is just because it still looks smooth, as opposed to like, again, EverQuest or even Final Fantasy 11. Like if you go to YouTube and look up Final Fantasy 11 now, you're like, people played that? Like I can't even look at it. I'm like, I can't believe that I spent years on this game. It looks terrible,
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. Because I mean, yeah, just looking up Final Fantasy 11 and EverQuest, it's where it looks really good for the time, and then looking back, you're like, But I guess Warcraft already had the Warcraft like RTS
feel
games and stuff. Yeah, so it already had that feel. So it was just carrying that over. And I know, like, talking from some of the devs and stuff, they actually did a lot of like maneuvers and tricks to make it so it's easier on CPUs. Because the big thing was they wanted everybody to have access, even if you had a bad computer, which also helped make the game really popular.
Yeah, they made it accessible to people who weren't even gamers, and I think that's where the mainstream came from. Was that, like, I mean, like everyone jokes and calls them casuals, but the fact of the matter is, like, WoW was built on the back of people who were like, I see other people playing this game, but I've never really played an online game. Maybe I can try this, and then they end up getting hooked, and Blizzard knew what they were doing back then.
Yeah, I mean, it got big enough to make it on South Park.
Yeah, and that's still my favorite, probably, South Park episode ever. That's a lot of people's favorite episode, is the WoW one.
Yeah,
no, it's just legendary. But WoW, I mean, WoW was always like it was half social for me, but then I also enjoyed it because I could solo stuff and get gear without really having to do too much work for it. I mean, another game that I played probably more than any other game was Diablo 2. So like I was used to the idea of grinding and stuff, especially coming from Final Fantasy 11 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And WoW, I was disappointed because WoW, I was like, I could just sit in one spot in Diablo 2 and possibly make tons and tons and tons of Stones of Jordan, which is the gold, basically the gold standard in that game for currency, for trading, player trading. But in WoW, I was like, I'm getting like, wings and like linen cloth. I'm like, I can't, there's nothing rare. Like occasionally you'll see like malachite drop or something, but it's like, I can't sell this for any profit. I was always profit driven in games and stuff like that. So when I learned about going to instances and stuff, I was like, oh man, you can, like, there's dungeons in the game, like they're private dungeons. And I remember thinking that I was Mr. Big and Bad and I could solo dead mines, and boy, that was not a good idea.
Well, that was part of the fun too back then, was like everything was brand new and nobody really knew anything. So it was like everything was just an adventure.
Do you remember the first time you stepped into Molten Core?
I don't remember the first time
in a raid.
I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Like I remember waiting outside to get into Molten Core.
I remember there being huge fights outside.
Oh yeah, no,
between the Horde and Alliance. Yeah,
I remember just like trying to get the Orgrimmar for the first time, and I thought Razor Hill was Orgrimmar, and I was like, "Whoa, crazy!
I made it!
I did it!
Where's the city at? Hang on."
Or like taking the Zeppelin and you get off at Stranglethorn, and then like level 30 Raptors kill you, and you're level like 10.
And those freaking stealth tigers that everyone knows and hates.
Oh yeah,
the stalkers or whatever they're called.
Yeah. I'm in Stranglethorn right now because Sinvicta's favorite zone is Stranglethorn.
Yeah, look how pretty it is. It's beautiful here.
It is. I love it.
It's tropical, and You know, there's lots of good memories in Stranglethorn. Stranglethorn was like the place that you finally felt like you were in an open world, right? And I'm speaking primarily from an Alliance character because that's the only faction I ever played, really.
Hmm.
And I mean, I have Horde characters, but my mains were all Alliance. And like you would get out of Elwyn and you would go to Westfall, and it's like, Westfall. Hey, look, I'm in the teens. And then like Duskwood comes along and like just smacks you in the face, and then it's like, okay, well, I can either go to what's the name of that town that's on the opposite end of Elwyn, Lakeshire, where Lakeshire is. What the
Oh
heck is it
yeah,
called?
Red Ridge.
Red
Red
Ridge,
Ridge.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you could either go to Red Ridge, which is made for like the upper teens, low 20s ish, or you could go straight to Stranglethorn and start working with Nessingwary and stuff. And it's like as soon as you got there with an alt or with any character, you're like, okay, now I'm in the bigger picture because now I got to worry about Horde, I got to worry about high level stuff that could actually kill me and stuff. And I don't know and on top of that, just the tropical theme has always been cool, like blue water, sunny skies, palm trees, beaches. I've always loved that sort of stuff.
Hey, you said you grew up in Bermuda, so you'll have like a nostalgic kind of thing
Yeah,
with the trop.
it just reminds me of home. Anytime any excuse I can get, like if I'm in Minecraft, for example, like I beeline it for the nearest beach because I want to build an awesome beach house. Or like I even did it in Animal Crossing, where I was like, I gotta make a cool beach. I gotta make
Oh yeah.
a tropical thing. I don't know why. I mean, it's obviously just coming from being raised on a super duper tiny island. I was telling Crendor, it was a couple years ago, how tiny. You don't really understand how small Bermuda is until you hear that it's only 26 square miles. Like think about the town that you live in and realize that 26 square miles probably isn't even like downtown.
Yeah.
Bermuda's tiny, like super tiny.
Yeah. Let's see.
And
Bermuda size comparison.
being whenever we would come over to visit friends and family and relatives in the States, it was like traveling at like light speed. Like there's no highways in Bermuda. There's no like, fast lane. It's all one speed. Usually two-way roads everywhere. That's about it.
Wow. Yeah. Bermuda is 356 times smaller than New Jersey.
Yep.
That is crazy.
And we're just talking about the city proper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the entire nation. That's where I was born and raised.
Wow.
Super tiny.
Uh.
But
Wow.
that's the reason why I've always loved tropical stuff, because it's like, I mean, my favorite fruits are bananas. I mean, I don't like coconuts, but I enjoy the smell of them, which is kind of weird, I guess. And I love seafood. I love fishing. Anything that involves fishing, I'm always down for. And
Hell yeah.
yeah, I've always loved tropical stuff.
Man, you're the opposite of Sam. Sam hates bananas.
What's the matter with that boy?
I don't know. I love bananas. I actually eat like 2 bananas a day.
Yeah, bananas are great. Good
Yeah.
potassium source.
Yeah.
They good. It's an excellent source of fiber. I mean, Sam's getting up there now. He's got to have his fiber. He's got that dad body to worry about now.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to start eating his bananas.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with bananas. They're great. I mean, if you can make peanut butter better, that makes you a superior food.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. Peanut butter banana is like one of the best combos.
Absolutely. And I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. Unless if you're allergic to bananas or peanuts, then it's like, okay, well, you get a pass. But anyone else, but you there, little girl, I'll fight you.
Hello, have you ever played Tropico?
Yes, I have.
Did you like it? 'Cause that's Tropic game, island building.
I wasn't really into it. I don't know. Like I like the music and the soundtrack and everything, but the game was just kind of like, man, I could be playing like SimCity or StarCraft.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I didn't get big into it.
Well, I've never played it, so I'm kind of curious to go play it. 'Cause there's a lot of people that like it, a lot of people don't. I just figured I'd ask. It's Tropics.
I heard the series got like way better later on. I mean, there's like 10 Tropicos now or something like that.
Yeah,
so they focus more on like the dictatorship and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like I remember there's a game. It's so weird these days. Like have you? Let me know if you ever felt like this. Like whenever you see like Game Grumps or like AVGN or anybody else who covers classic games, and they pick a game that you used to play and love. Does it ever like kind of irk you in a way? It's like I kind of like this game though.
Yeah.
Like I like that. Like I don't remember if it was JonTron. One of them checked out Star Tropics, and I used to play the heck out of that game because it was again, it was tropical, blah blah blah, and I absolutely loved it. And then when I saw AVGN cover Jaws, and he was saying just how bad it was and stuff, he's like, it's so stupid. You all you do is you swim after you run into a shark. Oh look, there's this open water. It's like, well, you're not supposed to run into the shark. I mean, no one. The thing I thought about was like, no one's complaining in Final Fantasy when you're walking out in the middle of a field and all of a sudden there's a giant golem in front of you, or like, or mermaids popping out from the boat. I'm like, so why are you complaining about? I mean, you can see where the shark is,
Yeah.
That and another one that they covered was Yo Noid, which I do admit and I think Game Rooms did Yo Noid. I do agree that like some of the mechanics that are just flat out not explained to you, but like when you know how to play the game and you watch someone else do it, you're like, man, they are just totally not getting this at all. Like they're just they're just ragging on the game for no reason, and I don't know. But I also was just a big fan of like just the obscure bad games, I guess. I don't know. I like bad games. I think they're funny in a way.
No, I agree with that. I did my whole poorly rated series. That's one of those things
yeah.
where I just like playing the bad games, and then it's like it's like they're fun in a bad way. So yeah. I definitely feel that.
As long as they're not frustrating is the thing. That's my thing. Like a game can be bad and I'll put up with it because I'm playing a video game. It's it's like it's either I could be playing a video game or I could not be playing a video game. I mean, which one am I going to pick? Most of the time. I mean, as I get older now, of course, it's like, I kind of don't feel like playing a game right now. But I don't know. I've always had an appreciation for the work that goes into making a video game, and I was always like blown away by graphics. Even like simple graphics back in the day, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can tell the difference between like the water and sky, and there's a tree over there, and seeing the evolution of all that kind of stuff really appealed to me. So whenever I see a bad looking game, or even a game that's like has simplistic graphics, I'm just like, man, that had to take a lot of work to make. I can appreciate it. I may not love the game, but
yeah.
What was the last game that you played that you absolutely hated?
Oh man.
I can't. I'm asking myself the same question. I can't think of one.
I don't know about hate. I got a lot of flack because like I only got halfway through Ocarina of Time.
Right.
And then I quit because the controls in that game, I just couldn't do it.
You were playing on an emulator though, right?
I was playing on the Wii U, but still it was I don't know. I feel like a lot of games have nostalgia, and so they give a game more kind of, I don't know, leeway than it can have. Like it's all right that the game might not be the greatest or have bad controls and stuff. Like it's still a good game. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it can be frustrating or difficult. Like Conquer kind of had that. A lot of people are like, oh, Conquer is amazing. And I remember playing Conquer, and like you jump to platforms, there's no shadow below you, and I'm like, how am I supposed to know where I'm landing?
I remember that.
I don't understand. So,
But you played it for the original N64 when it came out, didn't you?
No, I only played.
Oh, really?
I played Donkey Kong 64. I played Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, a lot of the rare games, but I never played that one. So when I went back and played it.
I own Conquer 64, and I played it, and I was like, man, even back in those days, I was like, this frame rate is awful. Just straight up awful.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
I don't know why they tried to make this game, but I did. I ended up playing all the way through it, mainly because of the Saving Private Ryan and Matrix spoofs that they did in the game. I thought that was clever, but like, I remember the ending of Conquer was just always that one always stuck with me because like it was super dark at the very end, where he's just really pissed off and staring into the camera because he just realized that like everything he cared about is gone. So I don't know. I've always loved the ending of Conquer's Bad Fur Day. I like the darker sort of ominous endings to stuff instead of like, I mean, everyone enjoys a happy ending, but every now and then it's like, bring on some of that dark ending.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think it's nice because I mean, video games can like tell a story. Sometimes stories aren't happy.
Yeah.
You know? It's just real.
It's just like life, Just life
it's
is
just like
a video
life,
game.
man.
Yeah, I've been out in the world, man. I'm 19 years old, man. I know everything. I've graduated high school, man.
It's I mean, granted, when I was 19, I thought I knew everything.
I mean, we all did.
Yeah, but I that's
and who says we didn't?
Yeah, touche. So actually, I want to talk about how you got into like metal because I know you're very into like metal music and stuff. So like, why don't you tell me a bit about that and just how you got into metal for the first time, listening to metal, etc.
Well, I do happen to fancy the heavy metal every now and then. I tend to dabble in it, tend to write it, tend to play it. So to answer this question, I have to go back to Bermuda real quick because we were cut off from American mainstream. I mean, we weren't American. Like we were U.S. citizens because there's a U.S. naval base there, but the culture of America was never. It never came over. Like it never jumped the huge gap in the Atlantic Ocean between Bermuda and Eastern Seaboard. So I didn't listen to popular music at all outside of like Michael Jackson, which my dad was a huge fan of. So that's really all the music that I ever heard was popular, like late 80s stuff. And when it wasn't until I moved, I didn't move, but we came over for Christmas one day. My Chinese grandfather bought me Metallica's album Load just on a whim. He's like, I saw a TV commercial and this is apparently a really good band. I know you like music because I've always been a huge music fan. And I was like, Metallica, what is this? It was a Christmas present. And so I popped it in and I listened to it for the first time. And I was like, what is this? This is crazy. Because I also, the only other album I'd owned previously, I had two other albums until Metallica. It was Offspring's Smash, the one with Come Out and Play and You Gotta Get Away. I mean, it's a classic punk rock album. And then I also had 12 Inches of Snow from, Snow as in like Informer, like Informer, that song. So when I got Metallica, it was something that I'd never heard before. And I listened to Until It Sleeps nonstop. And I was like, man, it wouldn't be cool to learn how to play music like that. And then that sent me down the rabbit hole. By the time that we moved over to this country, I was like really trying to find out more about Metallica, and that's when I found out about the Black Album. That's when I found out about And Justice for All, and then Puppets, and the rest is history. So really, I have my Chinese grandfather to thank, someone who's never listened to heavy metal ever, who just bought it from a TV commercial that he saw for his grandson. That sent me down the heavy metal rabbit hole, Coach.
Damn,
and
I did not.
Now I love it.
I did not expect your Chinese grandfather to be the one who got you in the
mud. I'm an interesting character, that's for sure.
So what made you when did you start like making your own band or like wanting to play in a band?
I was 16 and I was like, man, I want to go forward with this band thing. Like you listen to Metallica, you're like, man, I could do that, man. This is gonna be easy, man. You just got to have the willpower, man. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know how to play guitar, drums, or sing right now. I mean, I can sing. Anyone can sing. It's a varying degree of how well can you sing. But I decided that I wanted to play the drums, and I had plenty of time because I had recently had a catastrophic ankle injury that ended my football career and started my football career. So I had plenty of time to like sit down and just learn the basics of drums and whatnot. And I don't remember how I met my bandmates, but I met them through a friend of a friend who was like, hey, these guys need a drummer. Would you like to play with them? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. I knew nothing about drums, absolutely nothing. And we tried covering King Nothing, which is the Metallica song off of Load. And it was horrible. It was off time. I did pretty good for having a cast on my foot and everything, but like, I mean, when you're playing it, like, I don't know if you've ever tried playing drums or guitar or anything, but like when you're in the moment, you're like, yeah, this is actually going pretty good. And you listen to it on the tape, it's like, because I mean we recorded all of our practice sessions on cassette tapes, and you listen to it like, okay, that could have been better. That definitely could have been better. Then you listen to it more and more, and it's like, wow, this is horrible. But it was all for fun. It was nothing really serious, and that's actually where my where the moniker Sinvicta comes from as well. Was from my first and only like serious metal band that I was in up until the one I'm in now. And yeah, I think I've told you how I got the name Sinvicta, didn't I? I probably did a long time ago.
Maybe a long time ago, but I don't remember.
So it was after we formed the metal band. We were like, we gotta pick a band name if we want to start playing shows. And I remember I was reading Reader's Digest of all things. They did this write up on fire ants, and the scientific name for a fire ant is Selenopus invicta. And they said that it's one of those things where like they bold it in the first like paragraph and then they abbreviate it for the rest of the article just to save space and whatnot and paper. And they started calling it S Invicta, like S period and then a capital I Invicta. And I was like, that's a unique name. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. I was like, that there's a couple other names that I don't remember, but I kept going back to S Invicta, and we ended up going with it just because I can be very persuasive when it comes to something that like I believe in. And the other guys in the band agree with me. They're like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. We had a logo and everything was cool. And we played a lot of shows under that name. And then eventually, of course, like I was the youngest one in the group. So like the rest of the guys like graduated, they went all off to college and I never saw them again. And then it was around that point when StarCraft came around and like BattleNet and I was playing Diablo. Well, Blizzard back in the day, they used to allow you to put periods in your name. And then I don't remember what version of BattleNet they updated to where you couldn't have alternate characters. You could only have letters, like alphanumerical stuff. So my name automatically got adjusted from S Invicta to Sinvicta. And that's the name I've gone by ever since. And way back then, to this day, that is the reason why I'm still called Sinvicta.
So really, you're a fire ant.
Yep. I'm a fire ant. People they hear the story. They're like, "Oh, you must really love bugs." I'm like, "No, I absolutely hate bugs." I've always thought ants are cool. Which, by the way, there's a game I need to show you called Empires of the Undergrowth. Did you ever play Sim Ant, like the original Sim Ant?
I remember seeing it, but I never played it. Well,
this is like an updated take on Sim Ant that I think that you would like. You basically control a colony of ants. But it's done in like a modern like RTS way, and they have an open world play where it's like you're just thrown into a randomly generated map with a bunch of other like insects and other ants and stuff, and you just try to live. It's pretty cool. It's been out for a couple of years, but I just now got into it, and it's a lot of fun. But
I remember seeing the boxes now that I like look up the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was on SNES and then it was on PC, and I remember just seeing those boxes, and I definitely remember seeing that and being like, is that just a box with an ant on it? I guess I was right.
Yeah. But I own the Super Nintendo one, and I freaking love that game. I just played it so much. When those giant spiders came out, man, it was like the scariest thing in the world. And like taking over the yard and everything. But yeah, I don't identify with as or with an ant.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the nature. That's the origin story of my name. But ironically, I do think that out of all of the types of bugs and stuff, I think ants and bees are probably the most interesting to me.
They're
just to like
cool.
learn about and stuff and just watch.
I mean, they can like lift shit like 10 times their size.
Yeah, imagine we had my old podcast that I used to do years and years ago. One of the discussion pieces that came up was like, if you throw physics out the window, so everything is physically possible. Just ignore physics for now. What animal, if given human size and roughly human size and intelligence, would usurp humans from world dominance? The answer is ants, easily. And people were like, well, you can't say ants because there's not enough food. The whole world would run out of food, and there's also no space for them. It's like, yeah, but like I'm pretty sure the ants would just fight over space and food And if they had human intelligence, they would, figure that stuff out pretty quickly.
Hmm.
All I'm saying is that if you take human-sized ants versus humans, just from a numbers game alone, we're screwed.
Oh yeah, no.
And then you give them human intelligence, it's all over.
And they could just build a colony. They just like
yeah, they know how to build stuff
all over.
If you ask if Crendor, if you said, "Hey, I need you to build a hut," just a hut, I'll be like, just put a bullet in me now. I'm done. I'm done. Can't do it. Sorry. I can make a hill out of like leaves if that counts. But an ant my size, shoot, so it's all over. So yeah, and then later on, now I'm in a band called the World of Water, and Lauder is a reference to my WoW PvP character.
Oh.
So it all ends up originating back towards video games in one way or another, especially Warcraft. Because Lauder was the name of I played a Night Elf Protection Warrior, and that's how I got started in new media and stuff. Was just making WoW PvP vids. And since I played a Night Elf Warrior, everyone immediately thought I was trying to be a Swifty wannabe until they realized that I was playing Protection, because nobody played Protection in vanilla, and there were very few people who PvP'd.
Oh yeah.
As pure Protection spec as Warrior, but I did it, and then I also learned how to do flashy editing, and of course I was using nothing but heavy metal.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, did you use metal music for the videos?
Oh yeah, and eventually it got to the point where I wanted to make WoW videos look like, I wanted them to I wanted to make sure that they weren't just watching a PvP montage, because anyone can do that, can put music together.
Yeah. I
wanted to make it be okay, you're watching a music video, but with WoW, with actual WoW stuff going on in the background, but also the effects are synced up with the music. Later on, I tried to emulate for example, in I think episode 4 maybe of the Word of Law. In season 1, I'm a big fan of the band called Pendulum, who ironically is not metal, but they do a very specific thing during their live shows where they have the lyrics and stuff play for a couple of songs in the background, in the huge screens. So I decided that I wanted to do that in this episode, just to because I was using their song for this one, so when the lyrics came up like they would in their concerts and live shows, the same effect. I made the same effect happen in Vegas during the WoW PvP video to the lyrics that were playing and stuff. So that really got popular with people, because you didn't really see that too much at all back then. And it just kept building and building. I put them all on YouTube, and of course they all got copyright blocked. But back in those days, I was like, I'm never going to make money on YouTube. What do I care?
Yeah.
And oh, how I was wrong, Coach.
Is that how you got started on YouTube? Was that?
Yeah, pretty much. It was it was a combination of doing that, and then and I reconnected with John, with TB. And once he saw and heard a lot about that, I was still I'd known TB forever, and he with him and Husky, they both helped me kind of make the decision to be I can do this for seriousness. And then it was later on, I was like, okay, well, I got to take down the videos if I want to really try hard at this YouTube thing. And I quit my job as an IT tech repair. I managed an office down here, and just started making videos full time. And then that was basically it. And then just kept on going. So it's a long grind. You talk about long grinds. Being in new media is definitely the longest of grinds.
Yeah, because even just looking at your statistics, you're doing the best you've ever done now.
Yeah. We did. Last month was the biggest month I ever had in subs and in views and everything. It's been crazy, and ironically, none of that is connected with Warcraft or even Blizzard at all. It's all thanks to Isaac, pretty much.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because when did Isaac come out? It came out a long time ago, right?
Oh god, the original Flash version came out, I think, in 2012. I want to say maybe 2013. Original Binding of Isaac. That game came out in 2011. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then Rebirth came out. I think Rebirth came out in 15, 16. It might have been, no, it was 14. Yeah. So it was 3 years later that Ed released, the updated version of Isaac, and Isaac was always doing terrible on my channel, like to the point where like I was even told, like, look, you need to stop playing Isaac because it's driving people away. And if I'm sure you remember back in those days, I was playing Here's the Storm all the time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, and my HOTS videos were doing very good for a channel my size, relatively anyway, and I was doing events for Blizzard, I was casting tournaments and whatnot, and but I hated the game so much, and I hated it to the point of to where, I mean, I look back at it with fond memories now, but like I'm reminded every single time I think about it just how much like that game bummed me out just because the matchmaking was so bad. The game itself was good. I mean, like Here's the Storm at its basic core is still a good game. It's just that some of the decisions that Blizzard made on top of like the terrible like matchmaking just killed that game for me. But I had to keep doing it because I'm like thinking back to what John said. He was like, you just got to be consistent. You cannot lapse on content. So I kind of like forced myself to just do more and more HOTS videos. But then Isaac came around, and after discovering this guy named Northern Lion, I was like, man, he makes this really interesting. He makes it entertaining. I'm going to watch him, and then I started watching Lethal Frag on Twitch, and Frag was playing Isaac all the time, and I finally bought it on a Steam sale for like I think $1, and I made my first impressions, and I really really liked it, so I started doing regular videos for it, and Isaac sort of became, because I disliked Heroes so much, Isaac became like my vacation game, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So when people were telling me like you have to stop playing Isaac, like you're going from 8,000 views on HOTS to like 100 to maybe 150 views on Isaac, people are unsubscribing. I was like, I don't care. I need this game in my life right now. Anything that isn't Heroes of the Storm. and eventually the algorithm picked it up in 2018, and that's when everything really started taking off. And then now it's like I remember even saying in an old it was either Isaac episode or Here's the Storm episode, where I was just like, my ultimate dream for this channel would be if I could just do what Northern Lion does, like just make an Isaac video and call it a day. Of course, but that's no slight to NL, of course, because NL does much more than that. But what my point was that like I wanted to be successful for a game that I really, really, really liked instead of for one that I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it just happened. I got lucky, but it was also a lot of work. Lots of years with, I mean, it's a long grind. It really is.
From a perspective of somebody who I don't think I've ever played Binding of Isaac.
Yep.
So, in fact, let me check right now. Binding of Isaac. Let's see. I've never played it.
All right.
But I have both of them. So I guess
right.
I bought them on like a sale or something. Like what makes the Binding of Isaac so like addicting for you to play or fun to play and for people to watch?
As far as fun to play goes, it's you cannot, and I've been saying literally too much, but you literally can never play the same run twice in the game. Just because of how many combinations there are in the seeds and everything, it's all randomly generated. So every single time you start a new run in Isaac, it is the first time any human has ever seen the seed before that they're playing. So you don't know what you're in for. It's kind of like discovering. It's like playing a game that you know a lot about, but not knowing what kind of craziness you're about to get into. And I think, and part of the fun for me is of course I love bantering, and I think I do a good job at keeping people's entertainment levels high and with commentary and whatnot. I mean, it's definitely an acquired skill to be able to hold a video for like an hour plus just by yourself.
Oh yeah.
And make it interesting. I mean, anyone can talk for an hour, but to keep people interested is very difficult to do. And Isaac allows you this. It's a weird mix of a stream of consciousness where you can talk about whatever, like whatever movies you've been watching or music you've been listening to, but also have to interject the commentary with like, hang on, we got to go into silent mode because we're about to, we're on 1 HP and we're about to fight, Blue Baby or something like that. So it's the perfect in my experience. I think that Isaac is the perfect spectator single player game for people because you don't have to know a lot about it if the person you're watching is doing an adequate job of explaining what the items are or why you're doing this, why you're doing that. I took the more strategical route versus some other Isaac YouTubers who go for a little bit more banter heavy. And that really came from me covering, like being a caster for StarCraft and then eventually Heroes and stuff, just being really analytical about it. And that drew people who don't know anything about the game. I try to explain every item that I pick up, even though I know what it does, even though it may be like the 1000th time I've ever picked it up. I still try to explain it. And I think that keeps people interested and invested because now it's like, okay, we've got our hero's Isaac. We got our villain. It's every single floor boss plus like the ultimate villain, whoever we end up going to. It's an open and shut case for every run. So you get a beginning, middle, and end, and there's always a story to tell because you get to see Isaac progress from this crying child who basically has nothing, has no item, no nothing, and then you end as like either a super powerful, like, devil infused demon god, or you got like, a really weird, wacky synergy that makes you look like a cat, and I think that Isaac is the perfect fit for my style of not only commentary but also just like interest in gameplay and stuff. It's just there's always a beginning, middle, and end to every single run, and you can't really get that with any other genre of games, I don't think.
Huh. Maybe I'll maybe just for you I'll make an Isaac video.
You should do it.
Isaac video. First time playing ever.
You should do it, and then you can stream your point of view on Discord, and I can sit there watch you in real time, and just I can either choose to help you or just watch you kind of flounder around.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Totally do it. It'll make for good banter and also laughter.
Yeah, no, that'd be fun. I'm down to do that.
Yeah, be a lot of fun. Then you can tell me what I'm doing wrong in Blood Bowl.
Oh yeah, no, you're probably most people do a lot wrong in Blood Bowl, including me, but I do it on purpose now.
I love watching the old Crendorian highlights. They're so much fun because like that's back like all the group projects we used to do, like just hearing everyone kind of just collab with each other is always just, I don't know, it's entertaining, but also like in a weird way it's kind of like comforting in a way because it's like, oh yeah, I'm with my friends. We're just listening to them chat about video games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I freaking love the Force versus Dodger game where, or no, it was Mathis versus Dodger game where I think Dodger made a tackle and the ball, she was the dwarves obviously, and Mathis was the wood elves, and like the ball jumped up and then like neither one of the sides could catch it, and it just fumbled over like 8 times. Like because obviously in the game in Blood Bowl, dwarves cannot catch anything, so like the ball is like in the air. There's like a circle of players, and no one is able to hold onto the ball. And it finally goes back to Mathis after everything, and Mathis and Dodger just dying. It's like those little moments that I love pulling up our old videos. Even when you, Jesse, and I played Monster Hunter, I'll put it on the background just for like friendly banter noise and stuff. There's something oddly soothing about looking up old collab videos and stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I love watching the Miiverse TB Championship with Lil Skittles in it. And it was just like
get madder and madder.
Yeah, no, it was like, and that was such a like perfect game where like it went to overtime and then the rain ends and the sun comes out like a rainbow, and I'm just like, dude, a rainbow, and he's like, oh, here it goes. It's just a thing of legends.
It's a if you haven't seen the origin of Little Skittles and the culmination of the first Blood Bowl League championship game versus TB, that's something that everyone on the internet needs to definitely see. Especially if you're a fan of Blood Bowl.
Yeah, no, it's just look up the Little Skittles montage. I made a montage of everything.
Yeah, there you go.
It's fantastic.
It's on this YouTube channel right now.
It is. Whoa. Speaking of which, we're at 59 minutes. We're about an hour.
Nice.
So it's probably a good time to start wrapping things up.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I only have one question for you, Coach. Are we going to have a football season this year?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about football. We gotta get our football in.
Yeah, because we're on a podcast called Three Guys and a Bear Talk About Football. Well, Three Guys
true.
and sometimes a bear talk about football.
Yeah. I hope we do, and I think we will. I actually do think we will, but I don't think fans are going to be allowed to watch.
You think that they're going to go with the empty stadium route?
Yeah, I think they're going to go
even outdoor stadiums?
Yeah, I think they will. They're going to be as safe as possible to keep it so that football can be played and controlled. Right. So, I mean, if you only have, like, players and, like, people making sure nobody can get in or watch the players and coaches, then that's, like, you just test them, and that's all you have to test and control. And I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, because, I mean, the owner. I mean, I guess that makes sense, because if you think about it, the owner's investment is not in the people who come watch the game. It's the players and the coaches. Yeah, the staff that make their team run. So I would want to protect my assets as well, I guess. But
yeah, and they still have TV deals and everything that'll make money in merchandise.
I think that we honestly will still have a season. I think it will start pretty much on time, but I also would not be surprised if they cut the season short by a couple games, just out of like circumstances surrounding everything,
or if they just played like 2 preseason games or 1 preseason game or something,
or get rid of the stupid Pro Bowl.
Oh yeah, get rid of that.
I mean, keep all the events. So we were talking about this on the podcast. Like, keep the events for the Pro Bowl because that's awesome. Yeah. All like the athletic stuff and the trials and everything. That's good. That's some good watching right there.
Yeah.
But the Pro Bowl game itself, who the heck cares about the Pro Bowl?
Oh yeah, nobody.
I've never cared about that.
Yeah, nobody does.
No,
in fact,
literally
people care more about making the Pro Bowl than they do about playing in the Pro Bowl or watching the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's definitely not worth my football career to get a free trip to Hawaii, especially when I can just afford to go whenever I want to. Like, as a professional football player,
they should just turn the Pro Bowl into like a Pro Bowl or like the pro best players ever, like the All Pro team or some shit. And it's like, hey, you made the All Pro team. There's no game, just festivities if you want to play. Then be like, cool.
Yeah, the quarterback challenge stuff, the receiver stuff, all that stuff was great.
Yeah,
they need to keep doing that. What they need to not do is play the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's dumb. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask about how you got into football, or like you played football, right?
Yeah, out of the 4 of us, I'm the only one who actually played football.
Yeah, well, I played like backyard football and stuff, but not like
Game. I don't know. Did you ask Dan if he ever actually played football?
I don't know. I didn't actually talk to him about football.
Oh, okay. But I don't remember if we talked to him when he was a guest on the podcast, but I played sports forever, and it wasn't until I broke my ankle that I told you in that soccer tournament that caused me to not be able to play soccer. The coaches were just like, yeah, you can't play soccer anymore. I fractured my ankle in 3 places. I tore 5 ligaments and fractured the growth plate.
Oh, wow.
So like it was just done. They were like, I'm sorry, you can't play like unless you want to be goalie. I was like, who the heck wants to be goalie? I was a halfback in soccer anyway. But that started me to go more towards strength training now, since I didn't have to worry about my weight and my mass. Instead, like, strength actually meant something and bulk meant something. So I started playing football early on in like intermediate school. And just played all throughout high school. I could have probably played in college, but I just chose not to. Just because like I knew that I wasn't going to be able to compete. I mean, it's like when you're playing high school football, especially in Texas, you're like, yeah, like this is what your life revolves around in high school. Is as a football player, you've got it great. I'm just going to say it. But those of you who are on the varsity right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a different existence than everyone else in high school. But when you get to college, it's kind of like I'm not going to be able to play at the level that's expected to me. So why am I going to just keep playing? You know, like I love the game, I love playing it, but I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to go into the championship game. You know, it's like I was like, I was pretty decent in high school, but I mean, in college, it's like, come on, you know, you're not going to go anywhere. So I gave up football then, but I've always loved it. As far as like the first time I actually like watched football, it was as a kid, and that's how I became a Buccaneers fan. Talking about the whole tropical stuff, because I was like, oh, those guys have pirates. I like pirates. Pirates are cool. Oh, look, they have a neat little. They look like the creamsicles. I like those guys. They've got to be good, right? They're pirates. Pirates are really cool. Yeah, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
They've got to be good. Little did you know.
They've got to be good. They're playing someone. they're playing this crappy team called the Packers. Who cares about the Packers? They probably are just like shuffle people's luggage around to the airports. Like, I'm a pirate, I'm a buccaneer. Let's do this.
Brett Favre, who's that guy?
Brett Favre. This guy sounds like a dork. Show me Vinny Testaverde.
Now there's a name.
Yeah.
Hey, at least unlike Rob, you've seen a Super Bowl in your lifetime.
Yeah, and we won a Super Bowl too.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we can't mention Bear because I mean,
well, that just doesn't count.
and now the irony is that I accidentally ruined Bear's good move. Oh, not accidentally, but I wasn't doing it to be mean. But the last NLSS that we were on, Bear and I were on the same Codenames team versus NL Mouth and Corey, and at the very end, after we're doing our shout outs, right as I got done with my promo and stuff, I was like, "Hey Bear, we made it through an entire NLSS together without one Tom Brady reference." He's like, "Why'd you have to go and do that?" now you bummed me out. I'm like this guy. I seem to recall Bear bringing up the Patriots and their championships many, many, many times.
Oh, he did
over the course of our paltry little podcast. So
there's also a good Bear tab. Like, why do you have to?
Why'd you have to do that? Come on now. Why'd you have to do that to me? No, I've been laying off on Bear because it actually is really important to him, and I don't lay it on. You know when something is like kind of a sore subject for somebody, so it's like you don't want to be like crappy to them, especially if they're a friend. And I'm actually legitimately really excited about seeing Tom Brady. My birthday was May 1st. My mom got me a huge card, and in it was a homemade certificate, which is basically a fancy way of saying I owe you one Tom Brady jersey that they ordered, but it's on back order right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting one of those like official Brady jerseys for the Bucks. And if you recall, I don't even care if he never steps foot on the football field to play. Like if he could like drop dead tomorrow or we never have a season ever again, I still can say I've got a Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey, coach. It's great.
It is crazy. Like actually crazy. Not anything. It's
anything better than Winston.
Not every team, like the Patriots with Tom Brady for 20 years, whatever. They got Brett Favre, but like not every team gets two Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Favre, Rodgers back to back. That's so sadly the Patriots' time is over.
But nobody gets as many championships as the Patriots have been. So
that's true. But now we'll get 3 with Jordan Love, 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row.
I think Love's going to be good.
I actually do too. I'm pretty excited. I also need to upload the podcast to SoundCloud because I forgot.
Yeah, you should probably do that.
Yeah,
but like I think Love he's got the honored distinction of learning under the tutelage of Rodgers and also probably Favre. I'm not sure. Do you know if Favre has talked to him? Has talked to Love before?
It's actually a good question. I'm sure he will at some point.
It wouldn't surprise me if they eventually said, "Hey, Brett's on the phone."
Yeah. No, but it's from everything I've heard, he's got the skill set. He just needs to learn a bit more behind somebody. So I mean, he's got a pretty good opportunity.
Just be happy that you never had to deal with a bad quarterback. Because let me tell you something, Coach. It sucks.
Oh yeah,
it sucks so bad.
I had like 3/4 of a season with Brett Hundley, and that was enough for me. I was like, nope, I'm done.
After the Super Bowl, I mean, Brad Johnson, let's be honest, wasn't incredible. He was great, and I loved his attitude during the Super Bowl. That was about it.
He was like an Andy Dalton.
Exactly. And then we had Jeff Garcia, and I'm like, oh great. And then Chris freaking Sims on there, and then I forget it was Bruce. What was it? He ended up playing for the Raiders.
I know who you're talking about.
He was really athletic, but he had flashes of greatness, but never materialized. And then from there, we went to Josh freaking Freeman, right? And then from there, we went to Jameis Winston.
What a lineup!
Just kill me now. Just end me.
Well,
so and then from there, of course, the greatest prize ever, the light at the end of the Shawshank Redemption crap-filled tunnel. We have Tom freaking Brady, 42-year-old Tom Brady.
That's the best thing
me.
You got.
at least I have hope, and at least there's some kind of praise coming down for the Bucks and some excitement. And then, of course, we also have a global pandemic, but that's just luck.
Well, speaking of light at the end of the tunnel, I think we're at the end of the show. Yeah,
we're here. Thanks for fishing. Thanks for fishing with me, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And finally, after 2 years, it has been finished.
Yep. Now I can't act like I'm giving you a guilt trip in chat anymore.
Yep.
No, I need to find a new bit now. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
You do. Something will pop up.
It'll probably be like, "Hey, Sinvicta, you want to go play Monster Hunter?" I'll be like, "Yeah,
Mario Tennis."
Oh yeah, we got to play Mario Tennis.
We do.
I'm gonna bug you about the Isaac stuff too. I think that would actually be that would be an absolute disaster, and in all the right ways.
Oh yeah,
just like
perfect for the channel.
Just like you joining me and Ryan for GeoGuessr for 4 games.
Oh yeah, that's great.
You got absolutely destroyed.
Oh yeah, it was like being in AA going to the majors.
No, you're going to be hard pressed to find people who play GeoGuessr more than Ryan and I do. So you were already outmatched. You were just there for the banter.
Yeah, I was.
It was great that we got to do the coach routine though, the press conference stuff when Ryan was like, he was like just trying to like interject with like hey everybody, you hear about the maple syrup? And we're like you're not the coach. And we let you carry on with a monologue. That was great. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Coach Crendor. It's I'm glad to do it, and we'll do it again in 2 years.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sinvicta as well as youtube.com/Sinvicta. I no longer have the 316. It's all official now. Just youtube.com/Sinvicta. And also, if you're interested in my heavy metal, you can check out my Bandcamp, sinvicta.bandcamp.com. That is where I'm going to be uploading all of our music. It's totally free. And I will also eventually upload all of our music to YouTube as well in video form. But I highly recommend going to our Bandcamp and just downloading it for free. It's not on Spotify, even though a lot of people ask for it. But that's a whole nother podcast. So just go check it out, sinvicta.bandcamp.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Wowcrendor here on YouTube and also on Twitch, because twitch.tv/Crendor has the greatest deal in the world. You can use your free Amazon Prime account to connect it to Twitch Prime and give it to Crendor. It's like free money, Coach.
It's free money. It's free real estate. All right. We're done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.
Okay.
See
you.